Welcome back to Casa Fuzetta, the House of Stories, with me, Tara.
And me, Kate.
In 2024, Condé Nast Traveller named Casa Fuzetta one of the best yoga retreats in the world.
Not just once, though, Tara, did they? They named it twice.
Yeah, I'm very, very lucky. So in season 1, we shared some of the crazy stories involved in the creation of Casa Fuzetta, which is located in a coastal fishing town in the south of Portugal, a country I'd never been to, knew no one, didn't speak the language, but suddenly found myself responsible for the restoration of 3 derelict buildings.
We also met an eclectic group of really wonderful people doing a whole wide range of exciting things, from philanthropists to entrepreneurs, retreat leaders to workationers. So if you haven't had a chance to tune in yet to season 1, I'd highly recommend spending some time with them.
In season 2, we take a deep dive into the magical world of workations.
So actually, just before we get started, maybe we should take a moment to explain what a workation actually is and how you started offering them, or why you started offering them at Casa Fuzetta.
Of course, it's probably easiest to start with the why. In the early days, I had to consider whether we were going to work as a hotel or just for exclusive rentals. Now, for all sorts of different reasons, it made most sense to me to go with the exclusive rental model. But over the years, we've always received requests from guests and others for individual room bookings. And of course, now that we've been going, 8 years or so, we've had a lot of guests, so that's great. COVID, of course, accelerated the concept of remote working. And in February 2022, a tech startup actually booked us for 2, they wanted 3, but actually we'd sold out by then, weeks to bring their whole team to come and work at Casa Fuzetta. And they loved it and tested our Wi-Fi, which demonstrated that it was robust enough to have 12 coders in the house working at the same time. So felt pretty confident we could get a whole house of other guests working from the house at the same time. And then in 2023, the calendar was filling up, but there were these 3 weeks in February that kept winking at me. So I thought, come on, it's time to experiment and to share the idea of workations with our community. And I think it would be fair to say that they have embraced the community. Obviously, with any new concept, it took a little while, predominantly because actually workations, as you were intimating, it's a new concept and it can mean different things to different people. I mean, in essence, it's the opportunity to blend work and holiday or vacation time.
Well, yeah, and actually having joined you last year and this year, it definitely became evident that it's more than about just escaping, say, cold or grey weather in February in northern climates. It's also,
although I do love that.
No, I do too, and I have to.
It is like,
I don't know.
It is the perfect excuse for me.
Oh, I certainly struggled with the daily blue skies. I'm not sure I can do that regularly. That and sunshine. But it is definitely it's a positive. But it wasn't the only thing. It was also the point that came across was it was finding time for people to work in a different space, maybe tackle thorny issues from a different perspective, or big projects that they never seemed to find time for at home. And one of the things I noticed is that everyone, the guests, all of us, particularly love the creative energy, not just of the house, but the town itself. They love the community of people in the house too, because I think that's one of the key things about workation is you get a whole range of people who come together. Everyone was interested and interesting, and they seemed actively engaged. It's a space to be enthusiastic about sharing ideas and to work through ideas with people that you might not have access to at other points.
Yeah, and I suppose it's also worth saying, because we've obviously, going back to the Condé Nast piece, we've got a reputation for retreats, and we host our own retreats as well. But the concept of workations is quite different in the sense that guests are here for longer. You know, it's at least 7 days, but as you will know, some of our guests were saying 2.5 weeks. And energetically, retreat groups are different. They're tight. You know, the retreat leader is trying to hold an energy within the group that's quite tight, and the groups sort of move and do activities together as one. Whereas workations, my role as host is really quite different in that I've got to hold space in a much looser way. And I think the best imagery I can conjure up to explain this is, those bubbles that we blow as kids, and then sometimes out at street artists that have those giant bubbles,
the big ones
or the ropes or whatever. Hosting a workation is, for me, I feel is like that. I'm creating and maintaining, holding up in the air, this giant bubble in which all of our guests have independence and space to work and play and do their own thing. And yet, the magic within the bubble is that they feel super welcome and supported within this community of other exceptional and creative souls.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, one of the most beautiful endorsements I heard from guests at Casa Fuzetta is exactly that. It's a space where they can let their dreams take wings and fly.
No, I couldn't ask for more than that. But I'm conscious we should crack on and introduce our first guest.
Yes, the wonderful Dora, an artist, an art teacher who's completely full of joy and colour. And in fact, on the day we interviewed her, was wearing beautiful colours.
Yeah, she did. Great outfit.
Oh my God, amazing.
Follow the Casa Fuzetta Instagram and you'll find pics.
Yes, actually, it just makes you smile. She fell in love with Olhão when she was joining a class at here herself. And actually now she teaches and leads art retreats in Olhão at Casa Fuzetta and elsewhere.
Well, not the retreats. Yeah, classes with us and retreats with our lovely neighbours, Casa Rosa. So special shout out for them and for Dora's retreats with them. The interview is one that we recorded when she was with us teaching our third season of Workationers. She very much specialises in beginners, including me. And what I love is that she just encourages us all to get messy and let go of perfection. We are back at Casa Fuzetta for season 2, and first up, we're very excited to have Dora.
Yay, Dora! I'm very excited. Very nice to have you.
Nice to be here.
And we're very excited because if you have been following our stories on Instagram, you might have seen that Dora has been quite a regular feature at the house, particularly for her art classes, whether for the Heal the Healers retreats, of which we've done 5 so far. And currently we are recording midst season 3 of our Workations. So we're mixing all of the seasons up. And Dora is back to do some more art classes with our new Workationers. And we just thought, what a fabulous opportunity to get Dora in front of the mic to share a little bit more about who is Dora and why is Dora in Olhão.
How did Dora arrive in Olhão?
Dora arrived in Olhão by following her passion of painting, and I came probably 15 or 20 years ago. There was art group called Art in the Algarve, a business, Art in the Algarve, and I was painting in Provence.
Oh, well.
And I wanted to take a workshop on the way back to Toronto, where I was living at the time. And I looked online, and there was this Art in the Algarve in Olhão. And I went, Olhão? Where's Olhão? I've never been to the Algarve. Where's the Algarve? And here I arrived into this beautiful little funky town, and fell in love with it right away. Did a painting workshop and came back every year for another painting workshop.
Oh, really? As a guest?
Yes,
or
I
as
was
a teacher?
No, as a guest.
Wow.
Different
Okay.
tutors every year. And after the first year, I told my love, I said, John, you've got to meet me in this town. You got to see this town. I think it's really great. So he would rendezvous with me, and we'd rent a house in Olhão for either a week or 2 weeks. And we did that for about 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And then we came in 2016 for the first winter. We were going to do winters in Olhão and summer in Canada.
Is that, I think, technically a snowbird? Is that correct?
Snowbird or snowback.
Oh, yes. Okay, there you go.
It's a long way to fly.
Yeah.
And in 2017, we bought our house here.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sorry to be nosy, but were you guys together before, or did you...
Oh, yes.
You've been a team a long time.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great. We're great. We're very happy here.
Very good. Very cool. And so obviously there's a big change when you go from visiting to staying.
Yes.
And that's been a bit of a journey in itself, has it not?
It was. Our plans change, and plans do change. That's the great thing about life.
Yep.
Keep your knees bent and absorb the shocks.
I like that.
COVID hit while we were here, so we couldn't get back to Canada, so we got to experience Olhão as a place to live year-round. And we liked that a lot. So we decided that we would make it our year-round residence and liquidated in Canada, and now we're full-time Olhão.
And actually, when we spoke briefly earlier, you mentioned something I thought a lot of people relate to, which was when you do something for, say, 3 months or a specific period of time, even if it's kind of extended, you spend a good deal of that time thinking about what's coming next rather than maybe...
Living.
Yeah, so you're thinking about, I got to pack to go back, or I've got to do whatever it is. But actually, when you extend it, you're really in that space.
Exactly.
And has that really changed your feelings about Olhão, your impressions of the place?
Well, I don't think it's changed my feeling about it. I think I feel a little more at home here now, whereas before when I was doing the 6 months, it was always, I'm going home. And
Gotcha.
now this is home, so it's made that more an anchor,
Yep, that makes sense.
a pleasant anchor.
A good place to be.
Yes.
May I ask, you didn't start life in Canada, did you?
No, I was born in Ireland. I was one of those lucky people born on the magic island. I was born in Dublin, and my parents emigrated to Canada, to Toronto with my older sister and myself, and I was brought up in Toronto with my siblings.
Oh, okay. So what age did you?
I was 4.
Oh,
And-
wow.
And
Okay,
people
so-
they'd say in Toronto, well, you don't have an Irish accent. I said, well, you don't really develop it by the time you're 4.
Didn't really have much of an accent at 4. Limited words.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm lucky I
Okay,
have
so
a EU
Irish
passport,
passport.
yeah, and the Canadian, so it's lovely.
That
It's
works out really well.
Yeah, it worked out very well for us.
Fabulous. Is John also Canadian?
He is. He's Canadian now. Permanent resident of Olhão, of Portugal, yeah.
So he went through the golden visa
No,
regime?
no, he just did the application because I have the
yes.
EU, of
Ah,
course.
yeah.
Yes.
Gold. I'm
Oh.
just gold for
Yes,
certain things.
yeah.
Excellent.
Well, they always say that the Irish passport is the most sought over, valuable passport in the world, the most popular.
Because you get to
Yeah.
go to Ireland on it too.
Very true.
Very good.
Do you go back to Ireland much now?
Well, we go back at least once a year. When I was in Canada, I went back for the first time in '85 because we, as most Canadians do, travel in the United States everywhere or the Caribbean. So I became quite addicted to Ireland from '85 till about 2000. I'd go back maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Fantastic.
It's a lovely addiction.
Yeah, very nice. And did you do a lot of painting when you were there?
I did, and I was fortunate to be able to. I was asked to paint at the beautiful Delphi Lodge in the west of Ireland, so I got to stay there for a month and paint,
Oh, nice.
which was magic. It
Yeah.
was, yeah. Except for the rain, it's not very good.
So, Dora, has painting always been how you make your living?
No, 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 no. It's a passion. A passion. Normally, you don't get to make
No.
money off passion normally, but I was in the restaurant and business in Toronto, and so my passion now is painting.
But you've also been able to turn your hand a little bit to sort of commerce in your...
Oh, absolutely. I'm busier than ever now, but it's not on being financial success in
No.
the business world. It's more of being a creative success.
Yeah.
And life is much nicer now.
I was going to
Much
say that's
nicer.
a nice thing to be able to say and experience.
Yeah,
That's-
it's wonderful, and the teaching part is so rewarding to see people after a couple of hours, sit there and look at their paintings, and one is in awe when you see what you look at.
Yes.
And what I've always admired as a total student, not having picked up a brush or a pencil or a pen since I was at school, and even when I was at school told, well, you're one of the academic ones, you're not a creative one, and therefore never did anything creative. But you've always, or tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you always teach adult beginners, and you open their eyes up to go, actually, you can have a
Yes.
go, and that's your really
Yeah.
really special gift. But was that very conscious? Very deliberate.
It was because when I think I was in my late 30s when I decided I wanted to start art, and I was brought up by lovely Catholic nuns who didn't think that art was part of the world that I needed, because I'd either be a nun or else be a mother of 6 children. So it wasn't part
Always
of the
good.
curriculum.
Limited choices there.
This is in Toronto too.
Wow.
So when I did learn art, I was in a class it felt totally humiliating to me. I didn't know anything. I remember crying in my 30s. I thought, this is not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So when it was friends of mine, after a few art shows, they said, you should teach, Dora. And I went, oh, no, not me. And then I thought, well, if I am, I'm going to do exactly the opposite of what I went through and never have my students go through that frustration and crying. Holy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's great. It's great to start out with adults and let everyone realize that we're all at 0.
Yep.
And that's a very important place to be, that no one's at 10, which is what I was in.
Yeah. And I have to ask, because I think to hear that you have this deep passion, that you've obviously sought out a teacher, you get a really bad experience. Did you just continue with that teacher? Did you find a different way?
I continued with that teacher for a long time. He was in Toronto, Chin Kok Tan. He was a wonderful Malaysian man. But my traveling to Europe on the painting workshops and retreats opened my eyes to lots of other instructing in different ways. So it was that experience of crossing the Atlantic and seeing something else. I think if you stay with one tutor all the time, you might become a little bit too much like that tutor. So I also, in my classes, encourage individual style. I want everybody to paint the way they paint, not the way I paint.
Yep.
It's pretty hard to paint the way I paint anyways. Anyway, that's all another story.
Well, one I'd love to explore, because when we had the advantage, thank you very much, Tara, for our lovely lunch just before this. And it was interesting to hear you talk about you paint outside. And one of the things I loved was that you said there are no straight lines, that you have a lot of movement and
Things are wrong.
Yeah, I loved that.
They're not architecturally. I had one student pull out a ruler to measure something.
Oh my gosh.
Slap them about.
What are you doing with that?
Not in my class.
No, I encourage things to be wrong.
Yeah.
Because everybody, especially adults, demand so much of themselves to do it right. And so Olhão is a perfect place for me to paint, because the buildings are crooked. The windows aren't straight.
There's not a single straight street. Can I say that quickly? Straight street. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a perfect place to paint. And
Dora, we were talking earlier about the individual art classes that you host with us at Casa Fuzetta, but of course I'm a little bit of a stalker on Instagram, and I have been following that you now lead your own art retreats, so completely focused on the lessons. Tell us a little bit more about how that has been going, how that started, what happens on one of your retreats.
wow, that's a lot of questions.
Start when you like.
It started with art again. The owners of Casa Rosa, Colum and David, wanted to buy a lot of my art for their beautiful villa that they had renovated here in Olhão. And we started talking about art retreats then. And I said, you've got the perfect place for an art retreat here. And so Colum and David thought that was a good idea. Great. And so we started Casa Rosa art retreats in Olhão.
Oh, and I hadn't realised that's how it started. I assumed that you'd done them before.
Oh, I had done them before. Oh. I had been teaching before, and I had done art retreats before, but I had never done one since Art in the Algarve folded due to COVID. And so this was a new startup in Olhão for Casa Rosa, and it was great for me. I'm delighted that it goes on, and I do 2 a year. So I'm somewhat reluctant to host art retreats in other locations, which I've been asked to do, because I'm very proud of Olhão, and I think it's a wonderful painting destination because there's so much to paint here. So I just to stay home and work from home to do my art retreats at Casa Rosa in the beautiful Olhão. Perfect.
It's stunning. Actually, even just walking around the street today, coming to do this and just looking at things with all three of us with different sets of eyes. And as we were sitting, you pointed out the blue in the architecture against the blue in the sky. And you start to just see things differently. And once you start to look, there's more than enough here, I'd imagine.
And Casa Fuzetta, hello.
Hello.
If it rained every day, you'd be painting for years here even.
And we're concentrating on you and your retreat at Casa Rosa, because you said you do 2 a year.
2 a year in the
So
spring
one
and
at
fall. And my spring one is completely full already. It was for the last 2 months, which is great. Yeah.
Congratulations.
I could do a lot more
Yeah.
if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I want to make sure that I keep painting and not just teaching.
Yes.
It's very
Smart.
important for me to paint. It's wonderful to see the students progress the way they do and the thrill that they get for their paintings, but I want that thrill too. I want to paint.
That's great. Yeah.
So can I ask a little bit, Dora, just because I know people might be intrigued. So how many guests normally would you have on one of the retreats at Casa Rosa?
I have my own personal maximum that I want, and that's 11 people in the workshop, because I want to give...
Quite a lot. That's still quite a lot of people.
Oh,
but,
no,
yeah.
Tara, no.
No.
I've been on workshops where there's 35 people
No.
on it.
Oh, really?
It's
That's
so
ridiculous.
abusive.
That's
It's
completely
abusive to
Yeah.
the attendee, because nobody, not
No
one
one's
person...
getting any attention.
Yes,
No.
exactly. So I do 11, and I think that's enough for me, and it's not... I make sure that I can get to everyone. 11 is my maximum.
And that's for that they'll have 5 full days of painting? Or
Oh
is it
yes,
less
it's
or-
intensive. You need a holiday after painting a week for Dora.
Stay in the Algarve. Stay in Olhão.
I could be quite exhausted after sort of 2.5 hours, but I know also how it's very meditative in the sense that you just lose yourself in the painting and the time goes.
It does.
But
Amazing.
it is quite intense. So you have 11 people, and some of them are complete novices, or
Yes.
are people coming to hone their skills, or what's the...
Who's your audience,
Yeah,
isn't it?
who's
Yeah.
your audience?
Well, I'd like to actually...
Who would you but let's put it a different one. Who
Your
would you
ideal guest?
like to come and join you? Because
Well-
they might be listening.
That's
Yes,
true.
exactly. I love to start at the beginning of something and carry on. So my ideal attendee, I would call it, my ideal artist to follow me would be one that progresses through the different levels, so I can guide them, not tell them, but to guide them the way they want to go. If you have an absolute beginner and a very accomplished artist, then you're in a workshop like I was when I was starting out, and
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to go through that. So I would like to be able to do a workshop of just absolute beginners and then be able to integrate those people in, because it's really not fair to the artists to
Well,
be
they
in
get
there.
quite, but people get intimidated.
Oh,
Yeah,
so easily.
yeah.
And do you work mostly in one medium, or is it, and which one is it?
I'm a watercolor maniac, but I paint in oil and acrylic as well.
Oh, fab! And on the retreat, do you teach in all three, or do you tend
No,
to
I
stick
just
to?
do watercolor.
Oh,
Just
fantastic!
But
watercolor.
also you're sort of pen and wash.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, I consider that part of watercolor though.
And because I know if you can't see this, I can see Dora, who is sitting opposite me in one of the most beautiful, bright, cheerful. I saw you across the courtyard, like Vava, incredible colors of blue, the color of the blue of the sea and Olhão in the sky. And then these wonderful abstract, not Picasso-esque, but a little bit in terms of the drawing faces with pink and green and just a wonderful range of colors. It's like sunshine and cheerful in one go.
Oh, that's lovely.
And do people choose the colors? Do you encourage a lot of color in your work?
I'm very colorful in my painting, and I do.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
I do encourage color, and I think that's part of the freedom of the one brush
Yeah.
and 3-color technique, is that you create many more colors than you would if you were using just box of this pigment, that pigment. It's part of the technique of painting with just the primary colors that you become more colorful naturally, I think.
Yes.
And it's been amazing to learn and experiment, and then to find how that, as somebody who's, as I say before, never learnt any of these things, to just have the freedom to experiment and to mess about, and not even to have the freedom, but to be actively encouraged to make a mess.
And that's an interesting way to make the mess. But also, if I'm not mistaken, I think, Dora, you may have inspired Tara, who now has creative painting Sundays. I have to say, I got a little note saying, picture of the kids at home back in London painting on a Sunday, which was pretty cool.
Actually, Will and Daisy, particularly Will, had said, "Oh, can we ask Dora to come and do a class with us as a Christmas present?"
Oh,
So we did do
fabulous.
that, and Dora
That was wonderful
very
too.
kindly came.
It was wonderful.
Because the first time that you came, or rather that Will was here and taking part, was at last year's Workation. It has to be said, he did not follow his ADHD kicked in full.
He went his own way?
Totally.
That
Excellent.
would be an understatement.
I think I'm getting the impression, though, that the teacher present, Dora, might encourage that.
I do, but it's also quite shocking sometimes.
Where you go.
Where it
How
goes.
extreme.
Fantastic.
Will,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the pre-Christmas one was very interesting to me because I brought over all sort of inspirational materials with, of course, the Christmas theme. And I'm not into Christmas, or I don't like that, or I don't like trees. And everybody did a Christmas tree at the end of it. You know, it was shocking.
Yeah,
it was wonderful.
But it was quite funny because there were four of us, and I can't remember where Jonathan was, but we sent photos to him of our four respective trees to go
Fantastic.
identify whose is whose, and he got them
Did he get-
absolutely spot on.
Oh, very
So
good.
there's a real sort of also an illustration of people's characters.
Yes.
And I always remember one of our first classes, and I was having a go, and Dora whispered in my ear, "That's a bit timid."
Did she say out of character?
No, she then said, "Are you timid?" And I went, okay. I take the challenge.
But actually, it's also the permission, isn't it? In a funny sort of way. I think particularly if you've, I don't know, but this has just been my experience. The minute somebody actually says, take the reins off, and you get that permission, you somehow go for it, don't you? Whereas, and why do we need that permission? I don't know, but for sometimes we do.
It's all back to that feeling of I want to do it right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes, that perfectionism.
yeah, it is. And if you take art as one of those things of it is all wrong, but it's art, then everything's much nicer.
Yeah.
If you think that way. But Tara has really grabbed the reins, and I want to say proudly, she did a full sheet that is 76 by 67 cms watercolor painting last week, which was fabulous. That's
Fantastic.
a huge step for an artist.
Will that appear in our show notes? I'm just asking.
Yes, maybe.
Just thinking as well, you obviously came to Olhão on the back of art with art in the Algarve. Then you've created art in Olhão and continue to do so and create budding artists. What's kept you here?
The village life. It feels like a village to me, although Olhão itself does go up the mountain and over to Fuzetta and Mont Carpaccio, and the population is quite large. Our little world here in Olhão feels like a village, and after living in a big city like Toronto, it's quite refreshing. It's like a wonderful new chapter, wonderful chapter of calm.
Yeah.
And also, I love it because I feel like I think I said before, I made more friends in the first 5 years here than probably 25 years in London. And there's an extraordinary, eclectic, creative community, entrepreneurial, design-led, creative-led, from all nationalities and Portuguese and mixes of French, Portuguese, or all sorts of different nationalities, and who I've always found hugely welcoming and supportive. We all arrived pretty much at the same sort of time. I just wonder, how have you found the community or the feelings within Olhão have changed over time at all?
The immensely popular articles of the hidden gem have changed it immensely. As you can imagine, it's no longer hidden. But the feeling here is wonderful. And as you said, what you said about meeting friends in the first 5 years, it's so true. People come to Olhão, they either love it or hate it.
Marmite.
Marmite,
Yeah.
exactly, yes.
It's exactly. Exactly. And of course, the cobblestones are very lovely, but not if you trip on them. They're not lovely. And so some people don't like that. But the whole feeling in general, especially being here year round, is you see more of the local people, the Portuguese, and you're just not here for 2 weeks. So they recognize you more. So they realize that, there may be fewer Portuguese in the historic section than there used to be due to us buying up the houses and things. But they still have new neighbors, which is much better than just being there for 2 weeks in an empty house next to you. So you're welcomed more. You have to prove yourself, though, like anywhere. You have to prove yourself.
Seems fair enough, doesn't it? If you're gonna get in on the secret, you need to work a little hard for it.
The hidden gem.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the other things that always strikes me when I'm here is the light, which I can only imagine as an artist particularly is a huge thing. Not just the light, obviously the vitamin D side of it, but people light up when they're in Olhão, they seem happier, lighter, but the light itself, it's got to be a big feature in the way that people see things and how they interpret when they're painting. Is that?
Oh, absolutely. And once you start painting, your whole vision of just looking at a tree is completely different.
Yeah.
You look at everything completely different because of the light and the shadow. You never paid attention to shadow before, and you need light to create
Good
shadow.
point.
We just went through 2 weeks of cloudy days. My God, everyone's suicidal because we had clouds in the sky. And there was no shadow anywhere. And I remember pointing out to someone, I said, "Oh, look, the shadows are back." And that means, everything's coming.
That's a really good point. I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But we're so used to having that beautiful Algarvian sky.
Yeah.
We whine. We whine if we get a cloud.
And I think you also whine here, W-I-N-E, because I understand that's pretty good too.
That's great.
I'd like to say I understand. I think I've sampled enough by now. But so
There's always new ones.
That's next week, yes.
That's next week. Yes, we will go to the vineyard next week.
Yeah. And what's next in terms of painting or?
What's next? My mind is going too fast for my body, I feel. I need to complete a few more large paintings, and I want to have my first show at my atelier.
Ooh, right.
Yes,
you have a separate atelier?
Yes, I do. The downstairs of our house is my atelier, which is like all places, somewhat in construction and not, but that will be my first show there. I had my first show at Casa Fuzetta 2 years ago, and I postponed showing anywhere else because it'll force me to do the atelier. And then I want to do a book of Olhão.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, and so that's something I know zero about, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to call it Let's Get Lost.
Oh, nice.
You can get lost.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. We sent all of our workationers off, and they were going, "Is there a walking tour?" I went, "No, just...
You'll get lost.
Get lost, that's the point."
Yes.
And actually, think about it, for people who haven't been here, the joy of getting lost is huge. But secondly, you're talking about your atelier and Casa Fuzetta, and they're both very nearby. This is within spitting distance, right? Of Casa Fuzetta, yeah.
The end of the street, turn right, and Casa Fuzetta, the end of the street, turn left, and then turn right, and then you're pretty much there.
That's the feeling of the village.
Yeah. But it's remarkable how much there is to see in between, even in those short distances.
Oh, absolutely. Every corner has another painting location on it.
I have not had an opportunity to do one of your classes yet, which I'm ashamed to say. That's something I'm really looking forward to.
Next time, jump in on the absolute
beginner.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I am. So that would be good.
We start out with, this is a brush.
Not a hairbrush.
Yeah.
This is a paintbrush.
Yeah. It goes in water.
So if I'm sitting out here and I'm listening to this podcast today and I'm thinking, I have a little bit of something in me and I think I'm creative and I think I'd like to paint, what would your best piece of advice be?
Keep it simple. Don't buy 10 brushes. Don't buy 20 colors. Don't buy cheap paper. Buy artist quality 3 colors. Learn how to mix your own colors. Use one brush. Don't draw. Why don't draw? One gal last week said, "You said I couldn't draw," and I said immediately, "I hate you, Dora."
Okay.
Because she was used to drawing everything, right?
That's right, yeah.
And for me, it's don't draw because I am very impatient when it comes to that, and I have this much time, and I want to get my painting finished. So if I spend an hour drawing, I've already lost the big buzz that I wanted to get on the paper. Instead, just put the paint on the paper and let it all happen. It's much better.
So take the leap, trust in the universe, and go forward.
Jump.
with lots of color, I hope.
And bent knees.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And that feels like a very appropriate place
Absolutely.
to say thank you very much.
Thank you very
Oh, it
much.
was
It's been great.
Thanks, Tara. Thank you, Kate. It was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you, Dora. Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Perfect. So,
In our next episode, we pick up with the creative community created by our February workationers. We catch up with Nora and Haruka, who we met actually in season 1, so it's nice to see them again.
yeah, they're gorgeous.
Nora is an interior designer from Cologne in Germany, and Haruka, an American artist of Japanese heritage, who recently emigrated from New York to Lisbon with her wonderful husband. They share their powerful stories of manifestation, including the fastest one to date, I believe.
Oh, yeah, this one's fast.
So you'll have to have a listen and find out more.
Just going back to Dora, I've included in the show notes links so that you can find out more about her and her retreats, and I think probably also a shopping list for those who are in the UK anyway, where you could get what she was recommending from Cass Art. But of course, we'd love to hear more of what you think of the series. You can find a dedicated email address in the show notes where you can send us your questions. And last but definitely not least, we'd be hugely grateful if you would subscribe to the series, give us a nice rating, spread the word, and share it with your family and friends. Até a próxima!
Até a próxima!